How are you guys? Welcome back to the weekly review on trades. Hi guys, welcome back to the weekly review on trades with the only one, your mentor, Prosper Falcon Forex, right? My name is Prosper Karim Fundi once again. So Prosper Falcon Forex is just the name for the business, right? So I call myself Dr. Prosper Falcon Forex, right? So I'm just going to be revealing and reviewing trades that we took from the 3rd of June 2024 up until the 13th of June, right? So last week I didn't actually manage to make the video, right, for the trades that we took within that week. So I'm just going to be combining data for the past 2 weeks, right? So in this episode, we are definitely going to be having 2 weeks combined, right, of trades that I'm definitely going to be reviewing, right? So I'm just going to be reviewing trades that we took in the past 2 weeks. So make sure to stick up until to the end of the video. And if you haven't subscribed on this channel, kindly do subscribe so that in future, whenever we post this content that is related to financial markets, you are also definitely going to benefit something from that content. And definitely, if you are also going through the same mistakes, right, or some mistakes that I will also be making here, you can also be able to correct yourself from that, right? Because in this business or in this industry, there is a lot to learn, and we learn new things almost every day, right? So I'm just going to be looking at this trade that I was expecting on gold, right? So if you can see from the chart markup, this is what exactly what I was expecting. Looking at the notes, you can just go through, read the notes that are just displayed down here, right? These are the expectations, right, on this trade. This is what I was exactly expecting on this trade. I was expecting a movement of something like 4.5%, but it didn't actually move as expected, right? So this is the setup that I was definitely looking at, right? So if you can see from the last trade, right, that I did review on the last episode, you can definitely see that it kept on dropping after it did hit the take profit, right? So here, I was actually expecting a drop again to the demand before we shoot to the upside, right? So if you can see, we dropped as far as this demand, and we even broke below it, coming to this overall demand on the 4-hour time frame. And there was a rejection, and I was expecting them, since they had created a shift of market structure there, I was expecting them to come for this demand before they go up, right? I was actually expecting them to come for this demand before they go up, right? So I was actually looking at a sell trade here, because I wanted them to come for the supply, then drop for the demand, then continue to the upside, right? But this trade didn't move as expected, right? But we managed to cash out something from this move. So looking at the entry and the way we adjusted the stop loss later on, it was more like a good risk to reward ratio, right? So I'm just going to explain this trade here, then we move to the next one, right? So this is what I was actually expecting here, right, from the point of entry, right? So from the point of entry, this is what I was actually expecting, right? So I was expecting for gold to drop as far, right, as this point, because I had highlighted the demand down here, right? So I wanted gold to come for this level, giving us exactly 4.5%, right? That was actually 4.5%, something like this. This is what we're actually expecting, right? On gold to drop as far as this demand from the supply here. And if you can look with what happened, right? We definitely tipped into that supply and then we started seeing a drop, right? So looking at this, we definitely moved out exactly here. And from the entry, once gold started dropping to the downside, the stop loss was exactly above that supply there, giving us something like a 2.64% on this movement, right? Which was not bad, and this was actually good, right? So this trade went as halfway as expected, right? We had to manually move out of this trade, coming back to this point, right? Looking at this, you can definitely see that we go something like 62 pips on this move, right? This was more like 62 pips on this move, right? 62 pips on this move. And these are some of the results from the trade, right? And we had another 30 setup again, right? Sorry, second setup. Within that week, this was the second setup with the community, and it was more like a scalping trade, right? And we're actually looking at something like 50 pips on the movement. This was more like a 1:2 trade. So I'm just going to go back to the charts again, and this was on the 4th of June, right? This was on the 4th of June. So here we moved out with this, right? When we hit 62 pip, I advise these guys to book their partials, right? They booked their partials exactly at 62 pip, and then the market started going against us, right? And most of the members had already booked their profits because 62 pip movement was actually a good reward, right? Like what I said, it was something like 2.6%, right? From what we actually expecting there. Then we had this setup, right, on for a sell, right? So this is what I was actually looking for. So I'll just go straight to what happened to this trade when it was shared. This is what actually happened, all right? The trade dropped, it came back again, and there was a slightly drawdown, and then it started dropping to the downside, went straight for the TP around the demand, right? So I'm just gonna go to the chart. So this is the result, right, for that trade. If you can see, it also pushed as further to the downside. So this was just an update on what was actually happening there, right? So I'm just gonna go to the chart, right? We go to that point, right? So we're expecting this trade to move as far as this point, right? But we booked all the profits exactly at 2.6% on this movement, 1:2, right? That was more like a 1:2 risk to reward ratio, right? And this, right, the second trade that we had, we took it exactly on 5 minutes, right? 5-minute time frame. That's where we actually took that trade in 5-minute time frame. So I'm just going to go back, right, and explain the reason why I took this trade, right? So if you can see with what happened here, right, we came to a point where we actually created a strong resistance zone, right? This was actually a strong resistance zone that was created there, right? The first time we tapped here, the second time we came and tapped here, right? And the third time we failed, right, to break above this level, showing that there was more of a bearish order flow stepping in, right? So looking at this is what I observed, right? From this point, there was actually a market shift, right? This was actually a market shift of structure, right? And actually here, we actually had a breakout structure, right? So this is what I actually paid attention to, right, on the 5 minutes time frame. So let me just switch on to 15 minutes time frame after marking those points, right? So this is what I was actually looking at, right? On 15 minutes, where there's shift or a change of market direction here, right? We dropped below this previous higher low, right? And then this changed everything, right? And I was looking at this supply here. This was the supply that I was actually paying attention to, right, on the 15 minutes time frame. So if you can see with what happened here, we actually respected it, right? After changing the market direction, we came for this supply, then it started dropping to the downside. So I was actually expecting the market to continue dropping from this point, and I was actually paying attention, right? I was actually paying attention to the supply around here on 5 minute time frame. Let's just switch to 5 minutes time frame and go back to that point again, right? Right. So this is what I was actually paying attention to on 5 minutes. This was the demand on 5 minutes, right? That's why I was saying we're muchly paying attention to a scalping trade, right? And the entry, it was exactly here, right? So the reason for this entry, right? When I observed that we've created a breakout structure here, right? I was actually expecting a continued movement to the downside from this point, right? So look at this candle when we reach this previous support structure, right? When we reach this low, look at what happened, right? There were some rejections, but there was definitely an engulfing candle, right? Breaking this previous low. So this gave me a signal that we are definitely going to be continuing to the downside, right? So I was looking at this move, right? A 50 pip move. So this actually gave us a second, this actually gave us a second setup, right, within that first week. And it's actually moved as expected, right? When it started dropping to the downside, I knew that it was definitely going to come for this demand, right? It went, it gave us a drawdown there. It went into a drawdown with something like 5 pips, right? We're actually risking something like 19 pips here. We're looking at a 2.5% again, right? It was a 2.5% here. And it kept on dropping to the downside, right? So this was actually the second, this was actually the second setup, right? Within that week, right? And then we had another setup again the same week. That was on the, was it on the 4th? Yeah, definitely. It was actually on the 4th. So this is what I was also looking at, right? On 1 minute time frame. So I'll just go there. That was around 12, right? So this is what I was actually looking at, right? On the 1 minute time frame, right? So I was also expecting mitigation on the supply zone on 1 minute time frame, right? And then liquidity grade, they drop the great market shift structure and then give us a confirmation for an entry and then continue to that previous lowest point, right? So looking at this, this is what actually happened, right? So if you can see, they gave a market shift here. They came back for that bearish order block, right? And then our entry was exactly here when they gave us a strong bearish momentum candle. That was our entry. They went into a drawdown and then started dropping to the downside, continuing dropping to the downside, gave us a breakout structure there, and then continued to hit the take profit, right? So this was the third setup within that week, and it went well as expected also. So I'm just gonna go to the charts, right, and point out what exactly I was expecting there. So it gave us 50 pips. It went straight, it gave us 50 pips. and take profit was hit there. That was on the right. That was actually on the 4th again, and the trade was actually on 1 minute. So I'm just gonna go to 1 minute and then go back to that point again, so that I can show you the reason why I had to take that trade on the 1 minute time frame, right? So, okay, let me just go to 5 minutes time frame. So it's on free plan, and it's actually rejecting to, right? So this is it now, right? So on 1 minute, I was actually looking at this, right? So the demand that I was actually paying attention to on 1 minute, it was actually around this, it was slightly below, right? When I marked, that's why on 5 minutes, slightly around this place, right? It's around this area, right? So this was the supply in the 1 minute time frame that I was actually paying attention to, right? And looking at those cells, it was exactly at this point, the stop loss around that area, and looking at selling up until to this point, which was also giving a 2.6, because I was looking at this lowest point here. This is what I was looking at, right? All this gap that was left, right? When this candle closed, leaving a wick down there, I was expecting for gold to at least complete and close out this week, right? So this was the third setup within that week, as explained, right? And it went as expected from the results that you saw and the updates that were definitely being posted on the they call it what, the premium Telegram group, right? So this was the third setup that was shared, and it went as expected. Let me go and check for the other setup that we also had within that morning, right? So I was also expecting a buy back to this flip zone, right? And this trade was actually on 1 minute. And this trade actually went against us, and it actually hit the stop loss, right? That was the loss within that week, and it was on the 5th of June. So I'm not actually going to explain more on this trade, because I also need to make this video shorter than longer, because most of the people, they really don't want to take much of their time going through these videos, right? Which is actually a bad thing, because this content can actually be able to help someone to develop, or maybe to also spot the mistakes that they might also be doing, right? So the thing is, what I learned from this loss was sometimes you need to pay attention to the order flow, right? There was more of a bearish order flow in these structures. There was more of a bearish order flow within these structures. So I was supposed to be paying more attention on sales rather than on buys, right? But I ignored that, because I was paying more attention to what they did on this demand, right? So I was supposed to wait for them to come back for this demand to at least sweep the liquidity, and then I'll be looking for opportunities for buying if there's actually a strong market shift structure, right? On at least 15 minutes or another higher time frame, right? So the thing is, that's why we actually lost on this trade, and it didn't went as expected. Right, this was something that I just shared there, but it was not actually something that we're paying attention to. I just ignored that. That was US 100, and I didn't actually we didn't actually trade that. I just shared that for the sake of just people to go and check and so on, right? It was not something that we said we were trading on and what. You can even see that it's didn't even right if it's a trade idea or what. I just shared that chart so that my members, they can just go and look at it. If there's an opportunity for trading, they can trade, but it was not actually something that was shared for any members to trade, and I didn't even look at that. I didn't even trade that, right? And then this is right. This is a trade breakdown that I just did. We didn't actually trade this. I just shared this for the sake of these guys to understand what actually happened within that day, right? So when I analyzed this, right, I actually saw the market around this time, and I had to analyze, and it was not actually analyzing, but it was actually showing the members what actually happened with gold and the potential movements that were created in that day. And it was on the 6th of June, right? It was on the 6th of June. And this was shade, and I was actually expecting gold to come back for this demand and then continue to the upside, right? This was shade as a trade idea, right? But it actually didn't go as expected. Gold kept on dropping to the downside. I updated from this point, right? They went below that demand. They kept on dropping, right? So this was actually a loss that was made here, right? This was a loss that was made here. They breached below that demand. The entries were actually too early, and they kept on dropping, right? They kept on dropping. We make loss on that. Kept on dropping, right? That was a loss on that day. So I don't want to spend much of the time explaining explaining more details, right, on the losses and stuff, right? So I'm just going to be sticking much on the wins, right? But I'm also going to be giving the reasons why we also lost on some trades, but I'm not going to be sticking much into detail on those losses, right? So if you can see with whatever that we're definitely looking at here, since we had broken above this resistance here, I was actually expecting gold to continue as far as to this supply up here, but it didn't go well as expected, right? I was expecting them to come for this supply up there, right? But they didn't move as expected. So that's why I was expecting for them to turn around this demand and come up there. But the market started dropping. And the thing is, I think it was actually, was it around London Open? Yeah, I think it was around London Open, right? So the thing is, gold started dropping to the downside. There were no fundamentals at that time. Gold started dropping to the downside like nobody's business. And yeah, gold actually wanted something down there. I don't know what was actually going. There was actually some change of structure there, because this is where on the higher time frame, like on 4-hour time frame, there was a market shift structure, and then gold kept on dropping to the downside, right? So let's not waste much of the time on the losses and so on, right? And this was also shared, right, on gold, and this was a setup that was shared on gold, expected buys, right? And this was on the 10th of June, the following week. So looking at those trades, you actually had 2 losses, right? And 2 losses, 3 wins the previous week, right? And this was shared in this current week. Today is on the 13th, and this was shared on the 10th of June, right? So this is what I was actually looking at these structures. I'm just gonna go to the charts, because I think I still have this information on the charts, right? The analysis is still there. Everything was plotted there, right? Setup was shared, the signal was shared, and then gold started pushing to the upside, right? It went up, it came back to the entries, went up, came closer back to the entries, and then started continuing. going towards the direction, right? It moved 79, 103 pips, 153 pips towards the direction, right? These were the these were the some of the trades, right, that were shared, the positions that were being held by the members and so on, right? So this is what actually happened, right? So the thing is, we went closer to the target, and then gold went back again to the entries, and then later on it pushed straight to the targets, right? Notifications actually got in TP hit, right, on the positions that were held there. So these are the results that were shared on that setup. These are the results that were shared on this setup, right? And then this was the second setup that I also shared again on the 11th of June, right? On the 11th of June, this was another setup that was shared, and positions were taken there, right? Positions were taken, they were shared. Market was pushing to the upside, 64 pips running in profit. One of the students actually passed their step 2 challenge within the same week, right, with the setup that we definitely shared within this week. So these were actually two setups, right? Two setups, two buys from the 10th of June, right? On the 11th of June, another buy setup that was shared, right? So I'll just go back, right, to the trading view, and then we go and review those trades, right? So these were the trades, right? Went to take profit as expected, right? And then this was definitely shared today on the 13th of June, right? And this trade also went towards our stop loss, right? Some, they didn't put their stop loss. They kept on holding this trade, right? They just went exactly and triggered stop loss, and then started dropping to the downside. So this was my first entry, right? And I had to do a retake again, right? Getting to break even and having some slightly profits on that trade, right? So looking at what happened, you can definitely see what happened. So counting this, I'm definitely counting this as a failed trade, right? Even though there were also re-entries there, right? And then it went straight, right? It actually went straight to TP before PPI, right? And then around PPI, there was actually a movement pushing to the upside. So within this week, there were actually three wins again, and let's say 2 losses because they triggered stop loss here, even though we took re-entries, and another buy setup was shared here. This let me just say one loss. Let me just say one loss, because this, most of the students actually closed it break even. Some took most of their positions exactly we call it what at a 1:1, right? Looking at this with what we're risking, it was more like a 1:1 risk to reward ratio after closing some partials there, right? Some had to move. We call it what, they had to move to break even before the trade went against us, right? So looking at this, you can definitely see that the trade went up with 75 pips, right? And then came back for the stop loss, right? So most of the guys had already taken partials here, right? Before the trade went against us, right? So this was merely not a loss, it was actually a win, right? So going back to the charts to review those trades. Where are we? Right. So this is one of the trades that I said we didn't actually take, right? I'm just gonna delete this, and this, can pay attention to that. I was just analyzing there. Let's go to N15. Right, going to N15, right? Coming back to those trades again, right? So these are the trades right? These were the two consecutive wins within this week, the first two consecutive wins, right? So looking at this structure, this is what I was definitely looking at, right? When gold was dropping to the downside, I was paying attention to this demand, right? I was actually paying attention to this demand. They mitigated that demand. They went up, right? Dropped to the downside, came for this demand, went up, created, gave us a market shift structure there, right? So there was a possibility for gold coming back for some structures down there. But what I observed is this rejection that was made here on 15 minutes, it was actually strong, right? So since we did break above this, right, I was expecting a continuation to the upside without coming down here for this demand, because this demand, it was also overlapping close to we call it what, the rejection zone here, the resistance zone on that 15-minute structure, right? And then the end was, it was actually an aggressive entry. From this point, there was no drawdown, right? Gold kept on pushing to the upside, went first for this supply, right? For this supply. And then it started dropping to the downside, came back for this re-entries. And then later on, it pushed towards the target and hit the take profit, right? So the thing is, we're just following up with the structures. Following up with the structures, we booked partials here, right? When gold started dropping to the downside, right? We kept on putting our stop loss exactly at this point, right? And we're monitoring the structures. When we created a shift of market structure here, break-off structure, and then when we started pushing to the upside, created equal lows here, we knew that gold is definitely going to continue and hit the take profit, right? And it actually did that, right? So there was also a potential for another entry here. If someone wanted to add positions here, they were definitely going to be adding positions for buys again, right? So this was the first setup on the 10th, and then the next setup, right? So this was shade, I think, around 7 o'clock at night, right? So throughout the night, it was just playing around. Then the following day, this was actually fundamentals that actually pumped this setup towards the take profit, and the take profit was actually hit, and this gave something like 113 pips, right? This was actually 113 pips, and it was actually 2.49% on this trade, and it was actually 2.69% on that trade again. And from this trade, from the entry, right? From the entry, there was a slightly drawdown, right? Then we came back to lock above this EMA, and then we continued going up. We came back to closer to the entries again, and here gold was just moving up and down, moving up and down. Then the following day just started pumping, right, towards to the TP, and that was around 1430, and I think that was CPI, right? If I'm not mistaken, yeah, I think it was CPI. Yeah, it was CPI. Then gold pushed to the upside, triggering you call it what, the take profits, right? And this is the trade that I pointed out, right? That came to the stop losses, right? And then there was also a re-entry on this trade, looking at because that was actually, we're looking at a stop loss here. This was actually something like a 2% on this trade, right? So here is where the loss was made, that single loss was made, right? And then the re-entries made here, giving us 74 pips, right, on this trade, which is actually a 2% trade, because I'm the only one who did actually hit a stop loss, triggered some of the guys that didn't put stop losses, because they you know, they believe that sometimes the market maker actually they have to manipulate before they go towards a certain direction. So I usually like to play it safe. So I had my stop loss there. They triggered that stop loss, right? And then I had re-entries here, right? When they logged exactly here, when they logged below that EMA, right? And then that was actually something like 81 pips on that move, right? From the re-entry, right? And then after then, after they hit the TP, that was actually close to the PPI event, right, which actually pushed this market to the upside, right? And then they gave a market shift structure here. That's why I was actually expecting for gold to actually come and give me a rejection exactly at this EMA and then give me some continuation to the upside, right? So this was actually an entry from that point. Looking at 5 minutes time frame, this is what actually happened from right? So this was actually the move. This was actually the move that I was talking about, right, up to this point, right? Like what I was saying, this was more like a 1:1 looking at this, right? It was more like a 1:1 looking at this trade, and most of the guys, they moved out. Some booked partials and then moved to break even, right? Moved to break even before the trade went against us, right? So these are the setups that we shared within these 2 weeks, right? And I'm sure they are mounting up to 8 to 9 setups, if not mistaken. 4 setups within this week, and 4 setups, 4 to 5 setups the previous week, right? Making it 8 to 9 setups, right? And out of those 9 to 8 setups, there were definitely 2 losses, which means 6 to 7 setups were actually successful, right, from the way we're trading. So, guys, I hope from the things that I was explaining in this episode, I hope you understood, right? If you have some questions and you want to understand how we do analyze and how we actually get these setups, just comment within the comment section. Put your questions within the comment section, right? Or you can just join my free group on Telegram, where you can be able to ask some questions and everything that I do post, right? If there's something that you want maybe to discuss with me personally, you can also be able to DM me on Telegram, and then we can just go through your questions and assist you in what you need to understand pertaining the strategy that we use, right? So don't forget to subscribe. Don't forget to comment if you have questions, or maybe you have something that you want to add, right? Also, don't forget to like and share this video with your family and friends, so that they can be able to also learn from these things and be able to also utilize this information to be able to get some of the wins, right? So that they can be able to also get the wins that we are also getting this side, right? And don't forget to set the notification bell, right? Or to press the notification bell, so that whenever new content is posted here, you can be notified and not be left out to consume this wonderful educational information. So thank you guys for sticking up until to the end of this video. Have a great time and have a profitable trading.